Now on CoastTV News.
Power struggle. Why some Delaware towns are pushing back on state lawmakers over proposed new zoning laws. Garden gloom. What's hurting Lewes gardens and how they're hoping to bounce back. And later, a doggy delivery. Fresh is at the Brandywine Valley SPCA just in time for this weekend's mega adoption.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
The Delaware League of Local Governments is pushing back against state government. Good evening. I'm Christina DiRobertis. Welcome to CoastTV News at 11. We begin tonight with the League of Local Governments, which represents 57 municipalities in all 3 Delaware counties. They say recent zoning legislation has overstepped local authority. They say recent state bills, which have targeted the zoning of offshore wind energy, marijuana businesses, also accessory dwelling units, have all undermined local decisions. And Georgetown Mayor Bill West, the vice president of the league, says local governments and local voices are being ignored.
How are you working for all the people if you don't want to talk to them and don't listen to them? You know, it's going like a dictatorship where it's what they want and the heck with everybody else.
Now, Democratic Representative Claire Snyder Hall of Rehoboth Beach defended the recent state legislation today on both offshore wind energy and marijuana retail zoning. And the Delaware General Assembly was back in session today. District 20 Representative Stell Parker Selby was absent once again. Parker Selby has missed every single House vote this year. That's at least 145 votes. Politicians have confirmed that Parker Selby had a stroke this winter. And you may recall in our reporting last week, the Speaker of the House said she wanted to introduce virtual voting. Which brings us to our CoastTV poll. We want to know what you think about virtual voting, if anything concerns you about it. Looking at the results, you can see 63% of people say they're worried about less transparency. 31% say security risks. A few people also worried about rule changes and a possible unfair advantage. And we have a comment tonight from Skylar in Lewes, who says, quote, "I believe that we would need full accountability and transparency for this to work. If we can't physically see her as the one voting, how do we know it's her?" We want to know what you think. You can still vote. You can still leave a comment. Go to coasttvnews.com or use our mobile app. Well, the recent weather has some local gardens in need of a pick-me-up. Gardeners with Lewes in bloom say some of their flowers are off to a rough start this season. One of those includes the vinca. It's a flower that likes warmer weather. Gardeners say wet conditions and cooler nights have led to some of its leaves turning yellow. The ideal conditions would be sunny days with a little bit of rain each week.
We're going to start to get our warmer days, and a lot of things are going to really kick in. But we've had some plants where water has sat. Vinca is a big problem right now. Some areas it's doing good. Other areas you can see where it's too wet. So, and they don't like the cooler nights either.
And Lewes in bloom gardeners say they are hopeful that the incoming warmer weather and sunny skies will help those plants. And they say as hotter temperatures approach, they will work on making sure the plants have enough water. Now let's take a live look into Lewes and turn things to our First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Paul Williams. Paul, can we expect that warmer weather coming in this week?
Well, according to what they did, they've made to order the perfect weather that they need. It's going to be hotter, it's going to be wetter, it's going to be perhaps a little stormy. That's probably the extra tariff for the perfect weather that they want, right? Spicer Brothers camera, Salisbury. A good deal of moisture that's just hovering in the atmosphere right now, giving it a bit of a drizzle feel right now. We're at 71 degrees currently, and we're looking forward to stay in the lower 70s with a bit of fog kicking in for us by 3 o'clock. That's that funny looking cloud that you see right there. It's in the upper 60s along the beaches, but inland areas pretty close to the 70 to 71 degree mark, and we're staying mild. Now, we are going to stay relatively mild and warm tonight. Now, there is a heat advisory that will kick in for Thursday, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning and will continue till 8 o'clock. Here's the rub here. The heat index is about to skyrocket to near 100. I thought just one day in a row, but the new model right now is indicating 2 days in a row, Wednesday and Thursday. And Thursday, we're expecting a chance of rain and thunderstorms. So we'll talk about all that coming up in great detail. Until then, back to you, Christy.
All right, Paul, thank you. Well, you might remember something called Taros Village. It was back in front of the Sussex County Council this afternoon. The village hoping to be granted a conditional use permit to reopen and bring homeless people out of the woods. A volunteer with Code Purple at the Cape says there will also be portable showers and toilets there. He says Taros Village will be self-governed to help people gain independence, but it will be carefully monitored and taken care of.
They will have the amenities that every human being should have, not only in this country, but in the world, right? And I can assure you that there will be vigilance, there will be monitoring, not only by the state troopers, who we partner with very closely, but by our volunteers.
And people setting up the village today say they hope to have it up and running by early July. Well, look out below. These channel markers causing some harm near Fenwick Island. Back in October of 2024, a dredging project in town made things easier for boaters so that they could cruise by, but the markers, they're still in the wrong spots. Channel markers are essential for boaters to understand which spots are deep enough for their boat to go through, but when the markers are out of place, it causes confusion, other problems. Now, after that recent dredging project finished in Fenwick Island, going through the bay has been easier, but the problems are still there. The channel markers, they're not in the correct spots. One boater says marker placement, it's more important than you might think.
It keeps the boats in the same spot, and their propellers keep it cleaned out. So if the channel markers are in the right spot, that channel will stay clean.
Now, the Fenwick Island Town Council expected to have a meeting tomorrow to discuss possible bidders that can help move those channel markers. Now to Kent County, where a potential spike in electric rates could leave people in Dover feeling shocked. The city's proposed budget calls for about a 10% jump in electric bills, adding roughly $15 a month for average users. The plan also includes small increases to water and wastewater rates. Many neighbors and business owners are sounding the alarm on another increase, but city leaders say it's essential to maintain services.
This is mandated by the cost of purchasing electric, maintaining a reliable electric system, and also subsidizing the budget.
And that budget is expected to be voted on next week in Dover. A major development in downtown Salisbury has been stopped at the order of Mayor Randy Taylor. Multiple sources sent in these emails. In it, the mayor addressing Brad Gillis, a local developer. Taylor cites ongoing legal challenges with Gillis's project, and he says that's why he's directing city staff members to stop their review process. Taylor is referring to a lawsuit filed against the city of Salisbury, so now Gillis says it looks like Taylor is using pending litigation to his advantage.
Mayor Taylor makes no secret that litigation like Ms. Worthington has filed is something that he anticipated and, in my view, desired.
In a statement today, Mayor Taylor denies any allegations that he's using the lawsuit against the city to his advantage. Well, for the fifth day in a row, Israel and Iran are trading strikes with civilians in flashpoint areas, facing waves of attacks. President Donald Trump says that the ongoing conflict is what prompted him to leave the G7 summit early. Julia Benbrook at the White House with more.
President Donald Trump is back here at the White House after abruptly leaving the G7 summit in Canada. He was originally slated to stay longer, but as the conflict between Israel and Iran was intensifying, he told reporters at the summit, "I have to be back as soon as I can." The White House confirmed his plans for an early departure, writing, quote, "because of what's going on in the Middle East." On Air Force One, the president told reporters he's seeking, quote, "a real end to the conflict between Israel and Iran," arguing that would be preferable to a ceasefire, while also suggesting his patience for negotiations is wearing thin.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
And then a real end, not a ceasefire. And then
So something that would be permanent.
yeah, or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
The president met with members of his national security team in the Situation Room Tuesday, just hours after he returned. While there are conflicting reports on how developed Iran's nuclear capabilities are, Trump says he believes Iran was on the verge of obtaining a nuclear weapon when Israel struck last week. Israel has been pressing Trump to become more involved in its campaign to dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, which top officials from the country have said would require American planes and weapons. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
And we are just getting started this evening. Still to come, affordable housing progress. We have an update on the Dutchman's Harvest project in Lewes.
And in Cambridge, we're watching out for 91 degrees on Wednesday and 93 with thunderstorms on Thursday. We'll be back with your full forecast in just 60 seconds. We're a bit on the cloudy side for right now. We're watching out for big time heat, big time humidity that could spawn a big time storm or two. Our Irish Eyes camera in Lewes right now at 70 degrees. The winds primarily pushing out of the south-southeast at about 8 miles per hour. As far as our expectations for tonight is concerned, funny looking clouds again, so we're talking about a bit of fog. That's the overabundance of moisture that I've been harping on for the last few days because of the elevated dew point temperature numbers. I'm going to show you that in a moment. First of all, we start off with the actual air temperature of 70 degrees in Milton, Millsboro, Dagsboro, Gumboro, and Delmar. Now, you take a look at the dew point temperatures, which is the measurement of moisture in the atmosphere, and we're looking at 68 and 69. We're barely at 70 with the air temperature, so that's a lot. Remember, if both of them meet right there dead center with one another, that's 100% relative humidity. Well, we're at 90 plus at this point. So muggy is an understatement. We're going to go from humid to very humid to near miserable, and then we'll drop to muggy by Thursday going into Friday after the rain hits and cools us off, and we have a rain-cooled atmosphere, which sets us up for muggy conditions to kick back in once again. And the dew point temperature is hovering at the 70-degree mark. That's really humid stuff. Now, we do have a heat advisory that's going to kick in for us for the most northern part of the state. That's going to be probably hold off until Thursday morning going into Thursday night. But we do see widespread scattered showers and thunderstorms racing out of portions of Pennsylvania, but that's going to stay to our north this time around. We won't be so lucky about avoiding the rain by Thursday. Wednesday, I think we might just slide by on Wednesday. But Thursday won't be no sliding by. It's too wide to go around, too tall to get over, and too low to get under. We're going to have to go right on through the door of those thunderstorms on Thursday. But we have fog in the morning time at 6 o'clock with winds out of the south, and then we will warm to 90 degrees with the newest run we have right there at 4 o'clock. And I knew it was going to go up to 90 degrees actually. And then as you take a look at Friday, we see all the scattered showers coming to an end for us. Finally, here's a look at your 7-day forecast. A couple of things I wanted to take a little extra time on our 7-day forecast to show a couple of things. 91 for us on Wednesday, but the heat index is going to climb to near 98, 99 degrees. On Thursday, don't be surprised if we hit the heat index of 100 and then the thunderstorms kick in by the mid-morning, afternoon hours. So don't be shy, and it's going to heat up very quickly. So this is going to be a very thick air kind of a day, and watching out for gusty winds with thunderstorms. So that's why we have a yellow alert day. Now, this is also a lot of folks are going to start their Juneteenth celebrations on the 19th. So you're going to need to have plan B in case you're going to be outside. And then Friday, we actually have the start of summer. And then after that, next week, we're going to feel every bit of summer.
Summer. Thank you, Paul. Well, today in Georgetown, it was something of a puppy parade. Brandywine Valley SPCA welcomed 20 new dogs into their care. Officials say 17 are puppies from litters. 3 others were either surrendered or rescued. CoastTV photojournalist Matt Hipsman shows us why it's perfect timing.
Our big mega event is coming up at the University of Delaware this weekend, the 21st and 22nd. We will have over 1,000 dogs and cats. The transport that came into the Animal Rescue Center this evening represents a very low-resourced area of North Carolina.
I'm a small nonprofit. I do it in my spare time. It's my passion, so I have an aircraft and I have this truck. I had a bus that I retired in for this, but yeah, I do what I can with when I can in my spare time, to help transport animals.
We have such wonderful families that come to Mega, and we hear about 5 years later about the great puppy they got at Mega and going to the beach and family vacations.
It's an animal hotel on wheels. Yeah, absolutely. My approach to this is always, how can I care for these animals? And I try to look at every single worst case scenario if something happens, so that I'm not stranded and stuck and unable to, keep them safe.
Yeah. They love us unconditionally. They don't care if you're having a bad hair day. They don't care if you had a rough day at work. They're going to love you no matter what. And for a lot of people, the emotional support is also so important.
Just adorable. Well, building is happening everywhere, and in Lewes, the latest development making some major progress. It's called Dutchman's Harvest on Savannah Road. It's expected to be workforce housing. The housing would only be available for full-time workers in Sussex County. There's 140 units in total. 98 would be sold for roughly $100,000 below market value. That's according to developer Preston Shell. The remaining 42 would be cheaper, with 14 already sold and 28 available for rent in about 4 or 5 months. Some locals we spoke with say this is an asset to the community.
It's always been a concern for me personally. People shouldn't have to drive an hour to work because they can't find any affordable housing in the area.
Now, we spoke with developer Preston Shell earlier. He says the first group of people will be living there by the end of the month. Coming up next, Die Goodbye. Big changes ahead for Jell-O, Kool-Aid, and more. What you need to know up next. New tonight, Amazon expects that its workforce of more than 1 million workers will shrink because of advances in artificial intelligence. That's the word from the company's chief executive in a note to employees on Tuesday. Andrew Jassy said AI is increasingly capable of doing more jobs at Amazon. He predicts that will lead to job losses at the company over the next few years. He also said some jobs will shift, and what some workers are doing today may morph into other jobs in the future. Well, for the first time, streaming service viewership has surpassed traditional television viewing. That's according to Nielsen's monthly report of The Gauge, which tracks how people spend time watching TV. Last month, streamers combined to grab 44.8% of all TV viewership. Cable and broadcast TV drew a combined 44.2% of viewers. Streaming usage only expected to keep rising. Well, Heinz Kraft is announcing plans to remove all artificial food dyes from products sold in the United States starting in 2027. And effective immediately, the company will stop making new products with these dyes. Gus Rosendale tells us what that means for your pantry.
Yeah, today's big news involves Kraft Heinz products. And you think about two of their most popular ones. Think about this. This ketchup has been around for 150 years and has always had natural coloring. That hasn't changed. Then you think of mac and cheese, that college staple. Well, that's had natural coloring since 2016. But here's what's changing. Products like these, we're talking Jell-O, Crystal Light, Mio, Kool-Aid, even marshmallows. So what happens is when you take a closer look at the labels, you see the color we're talking about. We're talking about red 40 in something like Kool-Aid, the same thing with Jell-O. Even the marshmallows that are white, if you flip them around and take a look at the label, you see they have blue dye in them. Yeah, blue dye, and that's what's going away as well. Now, all of these changes are part of an ongoing trend. Consumer demand for natural food, that's been on the rise over the past couple of decades. And this latest move by Kraft Heinz follows pressure from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for companies across the food industry to cut down on artificial dyes. You might remember the FDA in April announced a plan to get rid of synthetic dyes by the end of next year.
Well, I mean, the ongoing trend would be to what the FDA is trying to do is to eliminate petroleum-based food dyes. Certain things that are associated with either carcinogens or irritation in the stomach or hypersensitivity, or one of them specifically related to potential genetic changes. So it's trying to basically make more natural dyes that make the food industry's products more attractive.
The North American president of Kraft Heinz says today's news is part of an ongoing change for the company, saying in a statement, the vast majority of our products use natural or no colors, and we've been on a journey to reduce our use of FD&C colors across the remainder of our portfolio. Okay, so what's the timeline? Well, Kraft Heinz says the food dye will be out of their products by 2027, and they will not add any new products that have those sort of ingredients in them. But certainly some big changes for the type of foods that have been in our kitchens for a really, really long time. And we'll send it back to you.
Still to come tonight, Delmarva Christian pulls out a tight one in Summer League field hockey. Watch the highlights from DE Turf.
This is Coast TV News at 11.
Well, it looks like Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family owners have settled their case with all 50 states, Washington, D.C., also 4 U.S. territories. The agreement is pending approval from a bankruptcy judge. The lawsuit relating to the OxyContin drug maker's role in the opioid crisis, it's worth $7.4 billion. If approved, the settlement will resolve thousands of outstanding lawsuits. The Sackler family would also acknowledge their role in the opioid epidemic. The payout would be the largest of its kind related to the opioid epidemic. If approved, the money would go to states, local governments, also individuals and others. A new study shows people who use marijuana double their risk of dying from heart disease. Researchers analyzed medical records of 200 million people between 19 and 59 years old. They found people who use marijuana had a 29% higher risk for heart attacks and a 20% higher risk for stroke compared to non-users. While more study may be needed, some experts say it's time to rethink the potential harms that marijuana use can cause. It's estimated to affect 1 or 2 people out of every 1 million in the U.S. each year. But diagnosis of appendix cancer, they're rising sharply among younger adults, according to a new study. In tonight's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has a look at that data and the symptoms that everyone should know.
It's an uncommon disease, but a new study shows cases of appendix cancer are rising among Generation X and millennials. The research shows rates of the disease have more than tripled for those born between 1976 and 1984, and more than quadrupled among people born between 1981 and 1989, when compared to those born between 1941 and 1949.
The reason for the increase in the cancer is currently unknown. So there's not really clear guidance on how you can prevent it.
Christina Annunziata with the American Cancer Society says having a healthy lifestyle helps guard against all disease. That includes eating lots of fruits and veggies, maintaining a healthy body weight, limiting alcohol, and not smoking. While there are no specific screening recommendations for appendix cancers, symptoms of the disease typically include abdominal or pelvic pain, bloating, nausea, and vomiting, which often can mimic symptoms of appendicitis.
Good news is typically it does not spread beyond the appendix. So most of the time it is curable by this local surgery.
Annunziata says if the cancer does spread, chemotherapy and other targeted therapies are often options.
Be really aware and in touch with your own symptoms. Don't put anything off. Go to the doctor.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
Summer League field hockey underway in more places than just Cape Henlopen. Let's head to Frederica. Woodbridge Blue Raiders taking on the Delmarva Christian Royals at DE Turf. The Royals, they're going to get the first good look of the evening in this one. Ball's going to roll in front, but Woodbridge's Riley Murray coming up with the kick save to boot it out of trouble. Still no score later in the half, and Murray a big reason why. This time using the stick, then the boot. Get that out of here. Haley Jones denied. We keep things moving. Woodbridge could not hold the Royals off the board forever. Some lovely passing off the initial kick stop because DC just kept on moving towards the cage, and finally they're going to find the back of the net. There's a goal for Olivia Ballback, and it's 1-0 DC. Later in the frame, they would try to tack on, but shots just off the mark. It floats wide left. We keep this a 1-goal game. Let's go to the second half now. Woodbridge on the offensive, looking to knot things up. A shot from distance bounces just wide, so the Blue Raiders have to keep the pressure on. But Carson Riddle showing off her skills in front with the pad, blocking that away, and then we go back to the other end. Ball back, letting one go. A bullet that whistles just wide of the cage. It's still 1-0. Now let's go in transition. Ball back, looking for her teammate Montejo, but Murray showing off the awareness, coming well out of the net to kick that out. Royals would try and add some insurance, but they didn't need it as Delmarva Christian wins a low-scoring affair 1-0. Up in the pros, Phillies going for their 6th straight win. Tonight they'd have to do it without Nick Castellanos in the starting lineup for the first time in 236 games. Phil's outfielder benched after the way he reacted to being taken out of last night's game. The bright spot for Philly, it's not that. It's Trey Turner, who continues to rake. The Phil's shortstop homered for the 2nd straight game. He's hitting over 300 this year. Philly led this one 3-2 in the 5th, but then came the fish. Miami rattled off 6 unanswered atop the Phils. Philly plays the Marlins again tomorrow night at 6:40. And make sure you keep up with our Facebook at Delmarva Sports to see where else we'll be for Summer League coverage. Plus, Berlin bathtub races and the Blue Gold football game are both coming your way this Friday evening. Out of your sports tonight.
Take a look at your forecast, and we're expecting for it to continue to stay very hot and humid.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for joining us for Coast TV News at 11 tonight. You can always find some more news and weather on our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon's up next. Join us again tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.